Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very glad, excited to introduce Dr. Najati. I happened to meet him in Turkey. He's a trainer and mentor for 5D training. I was super excited to have an interaction with him so that I should be able to ask some of the very important questions out of my learning, and a great learning for all the teachers, educators, and parents as well. To have a brief introduction, Dr. Najati holds two PhDs from University of Florida and from Turkey, one in education and another in economics, mashallah, tabarakallah. And he's a visiting professor for many universities as well. And he's the director for 5D thinking. So welcome, Dr. Najati. I'm so happy, mashallah, tabarakallah, to have you as a facilitator for this 5D, mashallah. To begin with my discussion, what is the core idea behind this 5D framework?
Yes, very good. So essentially 5D stand for 5 dimension. That's 5 dimension of reality and 5 dimension of thinking. So our argument here is that the existing educational system is 4D. It's essentially 3 dimension of space, 1 dimension of time. And in our model, we bring the 5th dimension. That's something go beyond the matter, beyond the material reality. That's the meaning dimension in the existence, in the being. So in this regard, that 5D is about 5 dimension of the reality of the creation. And also 5D is a 5 dimension of thinking, that we have 5 dimensional thinking through which we discover the 5th dimension of reality. So those are analytical thinking, analogical thinking, critical thinking, meditative thinking, and moral thinking. That's 5D, how the 5D stands for.
What is the okay, this is a marvelous framework, but what made you to develop this framework? What was the problem in existing curriculum or existing syllabus or content of the books what we have been studying for so many years, or what currently what kids are studying?
Yeah. The problem that we see is essentially we see the problem that we become essentially a godless society, and we are disconnected from God. So and therefore we think many problems that we experience, whether it's at a personal, psychological, or social level, are essentially because that we as a humanity move away from God, and we become very godless society. When Nietzsche famously said in last century, God is dead, he was essentially declaring that God has no meaning for us anymore. And what he was saying is actually true now at the global level. Even for those, let's say, religious so-called society, when you really study their life, you see that the God does not really have any meaning for them beyond some ritual. So we see the problem as basically being disconnected from God. So we define the problem as a disconnection and misconnection problem.
Disconnection, misconnection. Mr. Najat, thank you very much for this explanation. If I want a very layman to understand the challenge of this so-called secular education, how is that I can explain him with this with an example or something like that, so that he can understand a better way?
Yeah, basically we say that the creator is connecting to us through the creation. So in a way, the way we can know the creator and we can communicate with him is through the creation. Now, when we secularize education, means we disconnect creation from the creator, that as we go to school, we study, let's say, living being in biology, or we study chemistry, physics, we don't see the hand of creator behind those things. So when we don't see that, obviously that we're not convinced even there is a creator, and therefore we're not going to follow what creator is going to tell us. So our argument here is that if we are distant from the creator and we become godless societies, mainly because we lost the medium of connection with which that we're supposed to connect to the creator. So in that case, we see the essential problem is the problem with the knowledge, the problems that the way we study the creation, in a way that we disconnect everything from the creator. How we do that? Let's say the simple example is water.
Yeah.
So we have a cup of water here. So when you go to schools, in schools, the way they introduce you about the water, absolutely leave no room for you to see the connection between God and the water. So
yeah, it's H2 plus O, two molecule, two oxygen and
two
two hydrogens and one
one
oxygen.
oxygen. So when you ask what is water, they tell you water is just two hydrogen, one oxygen comes together and naturally emerge out of this interaction. So in that case, if we curious about God, they say maybe the only thing you could say, maybe once upon a time, it was God's initiated the whole process, but after that, everything just naturally evolved. We argued that is very, in this type of explanation, the so-called in the name of science, leave no room for the creator. So therefore, there is really no way for you to see there is a creator out there. So in this regard, in 5D, we basically try to see the connection between everything, including every droplet of water and the creator, through which we can actually get connected to the creator. Yeah, that's really how we see that. So in a way that we say, look, if I want to know God, so I need to see some sign that he is here. So if now I look at on this, table, and then I see suddenly, let's say, I don't know, like, let's say suddenly I see a box of chocolate emerge from the table, I will say, where did it come from? How this can happen? Because the wood cannot make a chocolate, and it wasn't there. It cannot be coincidence. So I'm just curious about the source. So in a way, what we're saying that when we look at the creation, there must be some sign that lead to the creator. We argue that the secular ideology actually cover up all the signs. As you go through the education, you cannot see any signs of God. So in this case, 5D is a way of reconnecting with creator through the signs that we can see within the science. So we are not really rejecting science. We really value science, but we just say, look, remove the ideology within science, which we define as secular ideology as a poison, comes from, let's say, secular scientists. They inject into the science. But when you have the pure science left, the pure science is actually full of signs of God that you can easily connect with the creator through that science that you can see in any subject, let's say water, if you study that. So that's really what we try to do in 5D thinking.
Great. Thank you very much. You just now, Mr. Necati, you told about two specific terminologies: connection problem and disconnection problem. Can you just explain with a small example these two specific terminologies?
Yeah. So basically, we say the problem is disconnection, misconnection. So disconnection is when you disconnect water from the creator.
From the creator, yeah.
That is disconnection.
Disconnection.
And misconnection when you connect the water now to something else other than the creator.
Okay, that is misconnection.
That's misconnection. So in this case, you say water is natural. That means
natural
you
is
connect
misconnection.
to nature.
Okay,
or you say
fantastic.
It's just a cause and effect. That's misconnection.
So,
or if you say, by chance we get this
is
water.
the whole facade, yani.
Yes,
that's the whole corruption.
The Quran calls this taghut.
Okay.
So the Quran says that basically you either whatever you see, you're going to give to God, or if you don't believe it's the work of God, then you're going to make taghut, they replacing God. So that's what we say. Basically, the misconnection is when we connect the creation of God with nature, cause, and chance, that we are in a way saying, this is really not made by God. This is made by nature. This is made by cause and effect. This is made by chance. So that is like, in a way, you denying there is someone, let's say, who makes and prepares this. You don't believe that there's a factory and human, let's say, producing and packing this cup of water. And you try to bring some other reason. You say, no, maybe monkey make it. Maybe it just happened by itself. Maybe it was wind make that. Because you have some problem to accept that there are some human who make that, let's say. So similarly, what we find out in the West, basically starting with enlightenment, when scientists had the problem with the church, so they didn't want to really connect anything with the creator. So they really reject the concept of God, and they bring their own gods into the science. The new gods they bring into the science is the God of Mother Nature, material causes, and chance. This we call a secular trios. It's like a Christian trinity. So essentially, in a way, to those scientists, in a way, telling those Christians, and we don't want to have your Trinity, but we're going to make our own Trinity. So their new Trinity, they replace the Christian one. Essentially, we call a secular trio is a nature, causation, and chance.
Great. Now, Mr. Najat, I'm from India and you're from Turkey, and you have been visiting so many different countries. There's the Islamic seminaries, madaris we say, and there are hundreds and thousands of Islamic schools. Even I am part of an Islamic school, and we have been striving hard to integrate Islamic values, to integrate God consciousness, and we have been trying to teach them. What is the problem in doing in that way? What is the problem if we do in that way what we have been doing, practicing across India or some other parts of the world? Or why 5 days is the only solution, you believe?
I'm not saying there's only solution, but I think the problem, there are perhaps two important problems. First one, where we see that in most of those Islamic curriculum, Islamic schools, they are not really aware of the secular ideology, and they don't have a way to filter them out. So, and they bring ayah and hadith along with the secular curriculum. So we say that is really not the way to solve the problem. It's like when you see there is a food out that poisonous, when someone eat, it kills them. And now you get the same food, you don't remove the poison, you give some nice, delicious dessert with that. It doesn't really work because the poison is still there. So the number one issue we see with those existing, Islamic schools with the curriculum, they are not really filtering out the secular ideology. So it's the knowledge is still very materialistic, very secular, very positivistic. So that's part we think need to be removed. The second one we see that essentially the existing model is in a way injecting the belief into the existing science or secular curriculum. So they will get it this, let's say, Cambridge curriculum, and they will add some ayah and hadith and say it's Islamicized. We say that is not the way to go. Why? Because we think that the knowledge, once you remove the ideology, already has the ayah. So in a way, you don't need to really add the ayah. Perhaps you need to extract the ayah from that. So in 5D, we don't really add the ayah to science. What we do, we extract the ayah from the science. Because we say, look, if you look at the water, inside water, there are ayah, because water is ayah for you. So if you know how to read them, and then you can actually, derive the ayah from the study of the water. So that's really, I would say, the uniqueness of the 5D. So 5D first filter the secular ideology,
First is filtering.
filter the poison. That's the first one.
Okay.
And the second 5D extract the ayah from the existing knowledge.
Okay.
Does not really add that.
Yes.
And
Seeing from the lens of a seeing this creation from the lens of a Muslim, you can.
Correct. But that's why actually here's like how we kind of define it. We say a secular curriculum cover part of kalima shahada. So in a way, cover ashhadu an la ilaha part, meaning that the secular, curriculum make you to go out to bear witness, to explore through the lens of science, secular science. Then, but it says don't talk about God. There is no God. So in a way, it cover ashhadu an la ilaha. But we find out Islamic curriculum cover illallah part only, without covering ashhadu an la ilaha part. So in that case, in 5D, what we try to do, we cover the full kalima shahada. So we say we have to start with bear witnessing, that we need to explore, and that's how we could use a science in a pure sense. Then we say we need to negate first, reject the cause, nature, and chance. That's the la ilaha. Then we need to make the case that the water, let's say, could only be the work of Allah. Means we translate illallah as only Allah could make a water.
Make it, yeah.
So in that case, we basically connect water to the Creator, and then we read certain meaning and divine names within the water. And then we bring Muhammadun Abduhu wa Rasuluhu. That is the moral thinking dimension. So that's really how, in a way, we can map all 5 steps of 5D with the full kalima shahada. And we argue that most Islamic schools that we have seen, they really, in a way, remove the first part of kalima shahada. They just disregard the la ilaha part. They just jump to the illallah part. We say, no, you need to first start with la ilaha. You start with observation, that's ashhadu. Then you have to do la ilaha. Then you could do illallah part. Then you come to the Muhammadun Abdu wa Rasuluh. So that's really how we design 5D, in a way, mapping and matching with the kalima shahada.
MashaAllah, this is very enlightening, more of a philosophical and very, very deep understanding of this. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I would really request Dr. Najat, if you can explain this with the examples we have been discussing, the example of a tree, the example of an apple, we have your metaphorical explanations you have.
Correct, very good. So essentially we're saying that, like, let's say, we all know tree.
We all know tree.
We all know, let's say, fruits like an apple.
Yeah.
So you can look at a tree or apple just as let's say, an object. And then you can say, oh, it has this color, this taste. It has this cell and this, you can look at it based on biology, chemistry, physics, and study that. Or just look at the tree and say, this is the shape. Now we say, no, the tree and apple has also deep meaning. And the tree and apple is a way of connecting to the Creator. So in a way, tree or apple is a letter from God to us. He wants to give us a message. So essentially, if we can read the tree, we can read an apple, then we can connect and communicate with the Creator. So in that case, we are saying that you're not supposed to look at an apple and tree just as an object. You're supposed to look at it as if this is a book, this is a meaningful, let's say, message for you, then you need to read that. So in 5D, the way we will, let's say, look at an apple tree, we'll say this. We'll say, okay, first start with science of apple tree, and depends on the grade level. You can cover about the seed, about the tree, about the inner, let's say, system of the tree. All you can cover. We have no problem. We appreciate that. Based on the grade level, we capture that. But we never use the secular terms like nature. You don't nature use laws or cause or chance. We don't. We just remove that. That's all. But then we come to the second one. We say, okay, Now let's try to use analogy for that. So what is an apple? Or apple is then find something from human being that looks like apple as an analogy. Or apple is like a dessert. So we know as a human how to make a dessert. So let's say, in Turkey, baklava is
Yeah,
very
baklava is
famous.
very famous.
So let's say you want to make a baklava. How would you make baklava? You need to have flour, sugar, or oil, just few ingredients,
Yeah.
or I think walnuts, get certain, you use them. So you get those, let's say 5-6 ingredients, but then you need to have a recipe or how to prepare them. Then you need to have the tools.
Yeah.
Then you need to get the oven and cook it. So there's a whole process behind that.
Yeah.
Now we say, okay, given your experience, you know what it takes to make baklava. So to make baklava, you need to have knowledge, consciousness, will, power, and the material with that. Okay, we say good. Now thinks about an apple. If the apple is like a baklava because it's a dessert, what do we use to get an apple? Oh, we use water, soil, fertilizer, seed, sunlight, and a light, and then now we got that. Now we say, okay, fine. But we know from our experience, a baklava never come into existence by itself. There's always someone who cooked the baklava. We know as a human that if you put the recipe of baklava next to all the ingredients, you will never make baklava. So what is really needed, you need someone with consciousness, knowledge, will, and power to make baklava. But then how do we get an apple? Because apple is even more amazing than baklava, because if you get the ingredients of apple to give to any chef in the world, they cannot make it. They cannot make a dessert because apple is sweet, has delicious, has good vitamin, is very delicious. But the raw material that used in the creation of apple is disgusting. Is animal waste,
animal waste,
water, dirty soil. It has nothing to do with this delicious.
There is no connection between the fruit and the ingredients.
What is used that, but that is actually, when you think about it, it makes you to ask the question: who is the chef cooking that? How did we get this dessert? I know what it takes to make baklava. If it is apple is more amazing than baklava, how the apple come into existence? Now we start to ask this question that based on the analogy in the third question step, we say, can the baklava make itself? No way. No. Can the ingredient of baklava just come together, talk to each other and say, let's go and make baklava because humans like us? No way. So baklava obviously can only come into existence when you have someone with the knowledge, will, and power. They put them together and they make a baklava. Then we say, look, then how apple come into existence? There must be someone with much greater knowledge, much greater power. And with the care and compassion and love, who actually make this delicious apple. Know our need, know our body, know our need for the vitamin, know how our stomach works, and know how we taste, we like something, and make the baklava. So then we say, who is the maker of apple? Who is the one who designed the apple? So that's we do in the third step. And the fourth step, when we make this, yes, we say, or we ask, we say, can it be nature? No. Why? Nature doesn't have a mind, doesn't have eyes. Can it be material cause? No, because that's we know from baklava. Or can it be just by chance?
No.
We never see a most delicious baklava come into existence by chance. There are always great work and mind behind that. So now we say, if it is not those, then who is behind that? Now, when we negate the nature, cause, and chance, that doesn't mean Allah is the maker of apple. We have to make the case that apple can only be made by Allah. The way we make the argument in 5D, we say, what it takes to make an apple. Let's say, if we give you a challenge, we say, okay, now forget about that God is going to stop to make an apple. Now you go and bring all the scientists around the world to produce an apple from scratch. Now you will see it become almost impossible task. Why? First of all, to really make an apple, you need to have a seed. If we don't give you a seed, you cannot make an apple.
Yeah.
Now let's say we give you seed, that's not sufficient. You need to get the soil, you need to have oil, you need to have get this, you need to have a water, you need to get the
sunlight.
So you need to get gravity, you need to get the whole universe.
Yeah.
And there was a scientist from University of Cambridge 2 or 3 years ago. He published a book. He says that to make a single apple, you have to first make the whole universe. He made it as a scientist, because that's everything is needed there.
Yeah.
So then our argument here, we say that means apple does not come from an apple tree.
Yeah.
Apple come from the tree of the universe. That means whoever makes the whole universe must be the one who makes a single apple. And that cannot be anyone other than the one with infinite power.
Infinite power, yeah.
Or that is Allah only. So that's how we say Allah is the maker and creator of apple.
Mashallah.
And the fifth steps, once we realize it's Allah, then the next steps we say, okay, now how should we appreciate that? We say, let's try to open the gift of apple to see how valuable it is. So as we reflect on the apple and understand how amazing for our health, for our body, for our taste and everything, then, and how difficult to make it, how much it costs us if we produce it, we will realize an apple in reality worth of billions of $1 billion.
Yeah.
This extremely valuable gift is created and given to us for free.
Yeah.
Then we should be thankful.
We should be thankful. The last is
exactly. So the very last, our journey ends with appreciation.
With appreciation of the Almighty Allah.
And exactly, to offer our thanks by word and by action.
By action.
And that's how we try to say, okay, now what should I do he cares about me, he give me such gift. What should I do to express my appreciation?
Praise him.
You praise by words.
You praise by,
and also
by actions.
You change your act. You behave in a way that you gain good characters, that he will be pleased with you.
Pleases Allah.
He will always be pleased with you. That's why we end our journey with the character lessons. How we can learn from the apple to become a better human being. That's really what the 5D is all about. So essentially, unlike the existing educational model in which that you try to load information to the students, in our model, we try to transform the students. That's transformational, in which as you go through the journey of learning, at the very end, your learning will take you to the sajda. In a way, connect to the Creator.
True.
And you want to really appreciate and go to sajda and express your amazement and express your, shukr to the Creator. That's really what we try to do through the 5D.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Najat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll continue the discussions, and inshallah, this is like life-changing discussions and lessons for all of us. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.